Hello and welcome to the Retro Perspective podcast, number one. Joining me is Josh today.
Hi guys.
Today we're going to be, first off, talking about some video game news. The first thing on the table is that Crackdown 3 has been delayed again. They cancelled two of their exclusives. Fable Legends, I think it was, a Fable game. I know it was a Fable game anyway. And also Project Spark, which were two games that were looking very promising. And also Platinum's game, Scalebound. I don't know if you saw the trailer for that or anything.
What's that about?
Basically, it was a rip-off of Devil May Cry, just like all other Platinum games are. And it looked pretty terrible. But the point is, like, Microsoft fans were really looking forward to it. And it was going to be an exclusive. Exclusive? No. Well, they pretty much done. That's the thing. They cancelled all their exclusives. So anyway, Crackdown, which is obviously another exclusive, and it was kind of in development hell for quite a while. They've just decided to delay it again. I think the excuse they gave is like hold on, I've got the news story up here. We're very excited about Crackdown 3, and so are many fans, and so it's a difficult call to move the release date. We want to make sure to deliver the right game with the right quality and at the right time.
I mean, something to be said, I would say, for deciding, you know what, if this game is going to be crap, then we're going to spend a bit longer and try and get it right.
Yeah.
I do think like so many developers in the past have been in such a rush to jump on the money train and get a game released that it's just been, you know, horrifically underdeveloped. Resident Evil 6 coming to mind. Terrible game. So many, like, especially games where they churn out a lot in a series. And yeah. I like that they've made a decision to sort of, if the game does end up being good, that they've kind of said, you know what, it's not going to be the level we want. We'd rather not do it at all, and rather than put something out there that's substandard. I mean, I can appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Xbox kind of wandering around in the dark at the moment compared to PlayStation in terms of exclusives, and they could probably do with like some big exclusive releases, really.
I think they should have had the foresight to know that this was going to be delayed and made the move to put something else out that was, you know, could have been the Fable game that they were working on, which pretty much looked finished. Yeah. You know, I'm sure they could have released something.
So they've got like, you know, massive gaps between sort of exclusive. Yeah.
I think the problem might be in that they would always assume that, oh, we have to put this game out for like £60, the full price, because it's a AAA game. Yeah. Like, if maybe they could have done it, said, okay, it wasn't the game that we set out to make, but we're going to release it kind of as a smaller package, but a cheaper game, so that you have something like to tide you over, kind of thing, rather than always trying to go for like all or nothing.
Yeah, and it kind of like with the accessibility of like DLC and stuff nowadays, and how games, you know, developers usually do throughout the first few months, certainly, of a game release, sort of adding new bits of DLC and improvements. And, you know, how often do you try and load up a game? I mean, I don't have a PlayStation, but I'm an Xbox player, and it seems every time I go to play a game, it's like, oh, need to update it before you can play it. So why couldn't they sort of release, like you say, maybe part of the game or something, or, you know, like that, and then add in a couple of months down the line DLC that like fulfills the full potential of the game and stuff like that. You know, make it a bit cheaper and then have add-ons. Like, yeah, I don't know why they've done that. I find it a bit strange as well nowadays, given like the budgets of some of these games, that they run over time anyway.
Yeah.
Not like in the past, is it, where you had like literally a small room full of people developing a huge game, and like it takes them years and years and years because they just don't have a budget to to do it any other way. I mean, some of them have budgets like Hollywood films. You know, how can they not get it done? I find it a bit strange, but
yeah. Okay, let's move on.
yeah.
So loot boxes in Shadow of War. This is a really hot topic at the minute, I guess you could say. Do you know what loot boxes are, first of all?
No, explain for me.
So loot boxes are something that used to be just in online games, like multiplayer games and stuff. So you would, when you leveled up, for instance, you would get a loot box, and it'd have a randomized piece of equipment that if it was a good game, it would just be cosmetic, you know, so then people aren't getting overpowered gear over other people who maybe haven't played the game as long as they have. Yeah, so they randomize it. And the reason they randomize it isn't because of the whole balance idea. It's because they don't want you to get the gear that you want. They want you to keep playing until you get the gear you want.
Okay.
So recently and this is Warner Brothers that are publishing this Middle-earth Shadow of War game. They've decided that they're going to put these loot boxes in single-player games, full-priced single-player games, and you can also purchase the loot boxes whenever you want for extra money. What do you think of that?
Hate the idea of this. This is the whole microtransaction kind of situation, and in-game purchases.
Yeah.
Mobile phones are to blame. Obviously, it seemed to have all started with that. The idea that, well, from what I understand of it, the idea of monetizing in-game purchases originally was because of piracy. So because too many people were not paying for the games, they needed to find a less easy to access way of generating the income from them. So it's much harder apparently to sort of create like a proxy or something that gets you around in-game purchases. That allows you to get them. It has existed, I think. People have been able to do it to get around in-game purchases so that you get them for free. But it's very difficult, and they're usually shut down straight away. Whereas, you know, we all know how easy it is to pirate games.
That might be the case in the mobile side of things, but in like proper video games, the idea that they do it to stop piracy or to recoup that money back that they've lost from piracy is kind of an excuse, I'd say.
Or income from.
Yeah, they're saying, "Oh, we need that income now because we're losing so many sales to piracy." Yeah. They don't really. They're earning, you know, record amounts of profit and stuff like that. So,
but I don't think many. I mean, I don't know. You might know more than me, but I don't think that many people actually pirate video games. I would say probably in the past it was more prevalent. You know, we all knew someone's dad, Aaron, who knew some dodgy guy who could get you some chipped PlayStation 1 or something and loads of games for 10 pence a piece or something. You know, I would think probably as a percentage of the game, obviously the gaming population was smaller back then, but I would say a higher percentage of the gaming population were playing snide games back then than they do now. Because the way that gaming's moved to a more casual market, I would say that those casual games are far less likely to go out certain pirate games. I think they're very unlikely to do that. It would only be your sort of more traditional hardcore gamers who are more into tech and things that would go out and do that.
Have you heard of a game called We Happy Few?
It's not we as in W-I-I, is it?
No, it's not.
I have not. No.
But yeah, I think Nintendo might have missed a trick there. Well, We Happy Few was a Kickstarted game, as is Shenmue 3, which is kind of the next story as well. The whole idea is that like these games are getting kickstarted, but then they're getting publishers as well. So like, what do you think? The question is really, what do you think of the ethics of fans paying for a game, and then also these games then getting publishers.
Okay, so so it's kind of like a crowdfunding situation initially.
Yeah,
where fans put in money to fund the startup of a project.
yeah,
And then once that project is kind of off the ground and they've got something good to show a publisher, they then get a publisher on board to take over and get them to market, kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right, okay, yeah. Are they...
So an example of this is the Mighty Number 9 game, which got kickstarted and then was published by Deep Silver, who is now publishing Shenmue 3.
Okay.
And they basically, it was a spiritual successor to Mega Man,
all right,
which I guarantee you not many children have heard of Mega Man or are interested in playing it.
They're not children now anyway.
Yeah, but Deep Silver decided it was a good idea to market this game like primarily to children and have like Minecraft themed DLC and stuff like that.
All right.
So that's kind of my sort of argument as to why it might not be such a good idea sometimes, and definitely not with this publisher Deep Silver. I'm not really trusting them to publish Shenmue 3 in the correct manner, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I love Shenmue.
Yeah.
And I would hate to see the game ruined because of that, because of sort of publisher, developer ideas about where they want to go with it rather than being true to it. But to get back to like the morality of it, are most of these sort of crowd-funded, Kickstarted games, do the people who contribute money initially generally get some kind of benefit back? Because I know generally crowdfunding, you get like
reward tiers.
Yeah. Different tiers of benefit for different sponsorship amounts. Is that generally the case as well with these games? Or
I think so. Yeah, I think they all had reward tiers. So I assume that those rewards will be fulfilled.
Yeah.
However, the whole idea of the Kickstarters in these games cases, I'm pretty sure, were that you kickstart this successfully, and we will be able to put this game out.
Right.
But now it's kind of the case that they're saying, okay, we're almost there, but we need to be published by a publisher.
Right, okay. I would, for me, let's assume that the company does stick to their word and deliver on the tier rewards for the people who have put money in. In that sense, I kind of do actually like the idea. If it means that a game would not be going to market otherwise. So for instance, if it meant that, you know what, we don't have the finance, the developer doesn't have the finance or the desire to create Shenmue 3, okay? But then a big enough amount of people said, you know what, we really, really want this game, so we're willing to put a bit into it, and so that we get this game in the end. I think it could be a good thing because people will, I think you'll see more of especially nowadays where developers, I think, are more focused on the financial rewards that are going to come from the games they make, which is why you've seen such a move towards very casual gaming and less fantastic exclusive games that are really, geared towards gamers. I think if it means that we get more of that kind of game, that's a good thing. As long as they stick to the word. And I mean, I would like to see personally, I think if anyone who pays maybe double the cost of what the game would actually be. So say you contribute $100 and when it comes out, the game would only be $50 to buy anyway. I would like to see those people have access to a free downloadable version of that game when it's released. They shouldn't have to pay for it. They've already paid for it.
Yeah, well, usually that's the case anyway with these reward tiers, but sometimes they do the reward tiers and it doesn't actually even say, oh, you can have a copy of the game. It's just like, you can have this t-shirt with the game logo on it, but but you'll have to pay for the game again when it comes out, basically.
That doesn't sit well, because I kind of think we know that the game industry is worth more than ever.
Yeah.
Are these companies really, really struggling to fund these games? Or is it kind of like they're holding the fans to ransom because they know the fans want the game?
Yeah, well, this has kind of gone on to a different conversation entirely, really, but I personally think that Square Enix should have just said Shenmue 3, yeah, we'll have that.
Yeah.
But they don't really care about Japanese style games anymore. They want to go with the Western style and try and, copy what's popular. And Square Enix are just a completely different company to what they used to be. But I'm pretty sure if it was still Squaresoft, they would have said, yeah, Shenmue 3, we'll definitely take that. Even Sega, like, why did Sega? It was a classic Sega franchise, classic Sega franchise.
I can only assume, because obviously just because of what happened with Sega sort of financially after Dreamcast and stuff, that they just sort of don't have the appetite for risk anymore. But I do. It's sad, really, that how focused developers are now on developing these very Western games because they know they're much more financially rewarding. And I think that's why now you see, a little bit off topic, but you don't have the same level of cult games that you would have had. You look back at the 90s, late 90s, early millennium, so many cult games that we can talk about now that, that we've reviewed old games and things that are like, it's a real cult classic. People absolutely love this game because it was special. I don't think you get that very often nowadays.
Yeah.
You don't get that. I mean, how many of these games that we're playing now, realistically, are we going to look back on in 20, 30 years and say, oh my God, what a phenomenal game? You know what I mean? It's not going to be many, is it? I would say.
It's the ones that I've played recently that I would say that are usually ones that don't have like amazing graphics. They have more to do with the actual gameplay than having amazing graphics, basically.
Because the problem is the way progression of quality of games is judged nowadays is more in line with progression of technology, I would say. It's all about, wow, that looks incredible. Wow, that, it's so smooth, it looks great. It's not necessarily about that, wow, that is a fantastic game. They're really pushing the boundaries of what a game can do and is. It's not about that nowadays. It's just all about, oh, well, Call of Duty 4 has better graphics than Call of Duty 3. Next year, 5 will have better graphics and so on. So by the time we get to Call of Duty 20, it's probably going to look like real life. It's going to be virtual reality. You're going to feel like, yeah, we're in the game. But are they actually doing anything new? Probably not. And I think that's a bit of the problem we have now in gaming. It's nothing grabs you.
Okay, next news story quickly, because there's no kind of twisting this to make it out as if it's anything good. EA announces The Sims 4 Cats and Dogs. Do you realise what's wrong with that sentence?
The Sims 4 Cats and Dogs.
Okay, so we have The Sims 1 Unleashed, which I'm pretty sure had cats and dogs and possibly other things. I can't really remember. But then we had The Sims 2 Pets, I think it was called, which had cats and dogs, and I guarantee you had lots of other things. We had Sims 3 Pets, which had, I'm pretty sure, horses, cats, dogs, obviously, and quite a lot of other stuff. Now we have Sims 4, specifically it's named Cats and Dogs.
And do we know if there's any other animals in there? So.
Well, obviously not, because it's just Sims 4 Cats and Dogs.
But the graphics are better, I bet, Jake.
What's that? The graphics are better. Marginally with The Sims 4, I can tell you that. Marginally better. Customise furry friends coats with crazy patterns or match the spots and stripes of an in-game pet to a real-life pet. So I'm guessing they'll have that shitty camera feature that's been in so many games where you can take a picture of your face or something and try and put it onto a sim, and it just looks absolutely horrific.
take a picture of your cat and put it onto the SIM card.
Yeah.
Oh my word, that is
It's giving us like the minimum amount of content, which is what EA has done with The Sims 4 all the way from the beginning, with every expansion pack.
I'd like to go out on a limb and hazard a guess that this game will have microtransactions in it, in which you can buy the right to have a pet horse and buy the right to have other animals other than cats and dogs.
Ooh, I hope EA doesn't watch this, because I think you're giving them the ideas there, to be honest. I don't think they've done that.
There you go. So if you were listening here, want to make a few extra bucks, because obviously the billion turnover that you have nowadays is not enough. There you have it.
Rise of the Tomb Raider is coming to the Xbox One X with enhanced graphics, which again, the PC version will look better.
Fill me in a little on the Xbox One X from what you know, because from what I gather, is it not just simply sort of like it's not a full generation step. It's just literally like when iPhone brings out an iPhone S.
I mentioned this in my E3 episode. Basically, the Xbox One X is billed as the most powerful console ever made.
Right.
Yeah, it is half as powerful as my PC. So basically, the PC has just gone so far beyond the console's power that it's almost pointless to boast about specs in the console war anymore, or what is left of the console war. Yeah. So what Sony and Microsoft need to be focusing on is creating great games how it used to be.
Has to be exclusives, doesn't it?
Yeah, basically. Because despite me having a powerful PC, Uncharted 4 is actually the most beautiful game I've ever played, and that's Sony exclusive.
Well, so it's said for the developers, isn't there, really? Because when you're getting into the PC gaming world, you know, not many developers are able to fully take advantage of how powerful the PCs are. You know, none of the games actually look as good as would be possible potentially.
So we were going to have like a topic of the week.
Yeah.
And this topic was going to be censorship because it's easy to talk about. However, seeing as we're limited on time, and we've had a few technical issues and all that, which I pretty much predicted. Do you want to talk about it a bit, or should we?
Yeah, I think we can do. Why don't we do sort of like 10, 15 minutes on it maybe? And
okay, yeah, that's more than enough time if you've got that.
Yeah, we can push it.
Topic of the week: censorship.
Censorship in video games. Give me some examples before I...
Okay, I've got loads of examples, so maybe we should just run through.
Yeah, give me that.
So in China, they're not allowed to have bones or skeletons in video games. So like World of Warcraft, for instance, has skeletons as enemies. All visual depictions of skeletons were removed from the game in China.
Is there a reasoning given? Too scary for the Chinese audience?
I did actually watch a video on this on Censored Gaming, which is a really good YouTube channel. Wait, I've got something from the Ministry of Culture in China. Anything that violates China's policy on religion by promoting cults or superstitions. So I guess the idea is that it's a superstition. Yeah, people coming back from the dead. It's like a superstitious belief that might happen. So it's promoting that idea somehow.
This is a much wider issue, isn't it? And I think censorship is a huge topic now. Not just sort of like, it's quite interesting that it has really massively crossed over into gaming now, but I think it's the issue of it as a whole is even bigger than that, innit? I mean, we're talking about censorship just in life in general now. And it ties in with kind of, for me, it ties in with the idea of an authoritarian state that wants to control how we think, how we feel, very, very dangerous, I think, because I would say this
Because
partially
it's escalated recently. That's the whole thing that people are.
hugely.
That's why it's a.
Yeah, hugely. I mean, if we look into, sort of many aspects, so racially, gender, everything really, it's kind of the idea of freedom of speech is no longer allowed, actually.
Yeah.
The idea that you have to think what I think, you have to accept my thinking. You're not allowed to criticize that, that because that's my thinking. So you're forced to go along with that. And the censorship in gaming is kind of like this idea that China decides, right, skeletons are not going to, they've created an idea that doesn't tie in with our ideology of we want a, Buddhist or Christian society, yeah? And the idea of people coming back from the dead doesn't tie into it. I mean, there's two aspects to it for me.
But only Jesus can come back from the dead in Christianity.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like there's two aspects to it. I think there's the exerting control on people, and which is just so dangerous. But B, kind of it's like saying people are stupid in a way, isn't it?
I agree. Yeah, definitely. Because they can't. It's like saying they can't distinguish between reality and a video game.
Which, I mean, it is an interesting one. I mean, I think it's ludicrous. First of all, let me make that really clear. I'm massively against. I think like censorship in any respect. I kind of think censorship is the worst thing that could and has ever happened to our liberties, our civil liberties, our right to freedom of speech, freedom of expression. I think this kind of extreme censorship that we're experiencing around the world now is the most dangerous thing that can ever happen to that, because we're going to end up regressing into a state where we're told what we're allowed to think, we're told what we're allowed to say and do. Outside of the law.
Sure.
The common law, which we all agree on, and we know that we break the law, we're going to be punishable for that. But,
so as a good segue into that, the next example I have is actually something that is copyrighted and is censored from games because of the copyright infringements. But it's like a really weird thing. It's red crosses in video games for like health packs and stuff. You can't have a red cross because.
Is there reasoning behind that?
Take a guess.
Looks too much like an England flag.
No, because of the, close. Because of the organisation, the Red Cross.
Ah, right.
Their logo is a red cross.
So has the Red Cross that has said this is a copyrighted image, you can't use that?
Yeah, they've taken people to court and got it removed from video games. So you were saying like within the confines of the law.
Yeah.
However, this is, and it's also an example of something that, why can't you just use a red cross in for a health pack? Because that's,
I find it crazy that the company, the Red Cross, were able to trademark a red cross, right? So like whoever dished that out is an idiot for a start. If I tried to file a copyright on the word today, I'm obviously not going to get that, am I? This is just as ludicrous as that, to be quite honest.
It's just some idiot judge that at the time said, yeah, you can have that, basically.
Yeah. That is just... I mean, that's ludicrous. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Another aspect to it, which is again to do with different cultures, different countries. Yeah. Have you heard of a game called Replay?
I haven't.
Okay, well,
where this is going.
Replay is a Japanese game, of course.
Yeah.
as you might have guessed.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can also guess what you do in the game.
Yeah, I've got an idea now.
Basically, you as a character go around raping women.
Okay.
And obviously that's been banned. You can order it from Japan, and that's completely legal. However, it's region locked. That's the thing I was looking for.
Okay.
So unless you get special software on your computer, you won't be able to play it because it knows it's a Japanese game, basically.
It's going to be tough. You're going to have to really, really want to rape these virtual Japanese girls out here to be able to play this game outside of Japan.
But what do you think of the idea that that's considered art in Japan? Yeah. That's acceptable by law, yet it's not considered art here.
I mean, this is a tough one. I think this is a bit of a trickier one. Because if the game is deemed in our courts to be promoting rape, or glorifying it in some kind of way, I can understand why they would not want that, because I can understand why they would not want that. But at the same time, we've got to look at some other examples here, because I think there's actually a slightly different agenda going on here. And it's to do with what's happening in general, actually, in the West and a lot of countries now, in my opinion. If I have a game which is about, I don't know, another taboo subject, Manhunt's a great example, actually. The game Manhunt, remember this game?
I love Manhunt, yeah.
Yeah, it got a lot of very, very bad negative press a few years back because some kid in America had gone on a killing spree and then cited that, it was a Manhunt.
Yeah, they had a copy of Manhunt.
Yeah, they had a copy of Manhunt, and the courts deemed that actually the game had twisted this kid's mind to think that that was great, killing people, right? I would be punishable by law if I was openly promoting the idea that we should all go and do that. However, those games are not banned, and I would say the majority of games now released involve killing. I would hazard a guess that the West, in its kind of pursuit of affirmative action on gender equality, just got in such a twist over a game like this.
Well, let me stop you there, because this game actually came out quite a while ago. So it was before Demigirls and Otherkin and stuff like that.
Okay, so it's quite old then, actually.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So maybe my assessment of that is a little wrong then. But going into the future, I think you will see a lot more of that. I think the hot topics of society will cross over inadvertently, obviously, into gaming. So I think you will see a real crackdown on any games that could be deemed anti-Islam. Any games that could be deemed to be promoting the patriarchy and being anti-feminist. I think those two, especially those two things, I think you're going to see a real shift towards extreme censorship in the gaming industry for those two subject matters. In fact, I'm very surprised that the anti-Islam thing hasn't become more prevalent actually in gaming. We've sort of called it the war on terror and that kind of thing.
I think not enough games have really touched Islam, to be honest. I think that more games should. Outside of the whole war on terror and the American sort of side of things.
Yeah.
I'm talking more of a philosophical tackling of religion within games rather than just shooting people. Yeah. But the next example I was going to say was actually from Little Big Planet, and it was a song in the soundtrack which had lyrics from the Quran, and someone wrote a letter to Sony to say that it's offensive to I guess translate isn't the right word exactly, but put words from the Quran into a song. It's blasphemous to do that. And Sony said, you know what? Yeah, you're right. We're going to take that out of the game.
See, this to me is madness. And yeah, it is blasphemous, maybe, to a Muslim, would be my argument. But is everyone who plays that game Muslim? You know, that would always be my argument. I mean, I'm trying to think of some examples where games play on, I mean, there must be a lot actually, ideas in the Bible and ideas on Christianity. And, you know, to a devout Christian, they would probably cite some of those things as blasphemous and this shouldn't be in a game.
Mm-hmm.
But again, coming back to the idea of freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of thought, if I am not a Christian and it doesn't offend me, why should somebody else, because of their beliefs, be able to say to me, this is offensive, therefore you can't be exposed to it? Do you see what I mean? It's the idea that you can make the choice based on your thoughts and beliefs for others, which is just completely wrong. You know, it's part of a very big problem now, I would say. Very, very big problem, this idea that we can choose what other people should think. I actually watched a video earlier, very interesting example of this. And I think it was Professor Jordan Peterson video. And he was talking about the Charlie Hebdo situation. The cartoonists who published sort of like a mock-up of the Islamic prophet Muhammad, and the idea that because they were not necessarily believers of that they mocked it, and it wasn't offensive to them because they don't believe in it. But the idea that because it's offensive to somebody else, they should not be allowed to express that. And this is dangerous, very dangerous. The idea that we can't express something because it might offend someone.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is very much down the path towards a totalitarian state.
So I think this next example might just give us a clue of how far we've gone down that path, because this next thing was censored because it was offensive to Nintendo fanboys. It was in a game called Nier Automata, which is one of my favourite games from my favourite director, my favourite video game director, Yoko Taro. But there was an item in the game you could get from fishing, and it was called, the name of it was a Nin 64, so maybe a reference to Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
And the description of the item was something like, it's just a hunk of junk, or something like that.
Okay.
So this is a Sony exclusive as well, by the way. So someone again wrote to Sony and said, this is offensive to me because I love the Nintendo 64. And they've actually removed it. They've actually changed the name of this item in game because someone said, I like Nintendo 64, therefore this is offensive to me. Saying it's a hunk of junk. I mean, it's a joke, isn't it, basically?
I mean, it's hilarious, isn't it? But at the same time, it's much more serious as well. There is a non-funny aspect to it as well. You know, that is just mad. I mean, I think what we should do actually, before the next podcast, we should make a complaint to Sony or to a video game developer or about something in a game, something that we deem to be offensive, something ridiculous, obviously. and see what kind of response we get. I think it would be very interesting actually if we did it on a platform where it gets a lot of exposure, and so like Twitter or something like that. I mean, I don't have Twitter personally, but if we did it on a platform like that where people will see it.
I think we'd have to make it sort of try and not make it obvious that it is just an experiment. Like that will maybe be the hardest part.
Yeah, make it something that people have or feasibly could nowadays get upset about. But also it has to be something that people shouldn't be getting upset about in all reality. I mean, it could be anything really. We should have a think about that and sort of report back what we get on that, because that seems ludicrous to me.
Yeah, I mean, I dislike Nintendo and I dislike their the Nintendo fan base. So that to me is probably the funniest example I could possibly ever come up with.
And yeah, I love Nintendo, or loved, and a reformed Nintendo fanboy. And yeah, your opinion of hating that does not upset me in the slightest. But expect a lawsuit in the next few days. People need to stop getting so butthurt over everything, don't they? To be honest, it's we're all grown-ups, we're all adults. Why does the opinions of others affect us so badly? Madness, let alone something that's happening in a virtual realm in a game. I mean, why on earth? How on earth can anyone be offended by anything that happens in a game, to be quite honest? Because anyone with any kind of intelligence, I would say, should be able to detach the fact that that is a game and it is not real life. You know, it's very different to someone publishing videos on YouTube of, you know, themselves raping people or killing black people, or
I don't think he could monetize ads for that. So
no, probably rather, you know, I don't nowadays. But you know, it's very different in it because it's not reality. I think we will get to the stage where actually the only console that you're allowed to play on is the baby Wii, and you're only allowed to play Wii Sports because it's unoffensive. But then people will complain that their favourite sport isn't on the game, so that's incredibly offensive. Miss that. So.
Or people that look like the me's might say that's a representation of me that I find offensive.
Yeah, that could be a good one actually to send in to Nintendo potentially.
Yeah, this me looks like me. I want it removed from the Miiverse. do they still have the Miiverse, or is it offline now?
I'm pretty certain, but now that we've put the idea of that out there, it won't be for long, I would imagine.
Okay, I think that's a good place to leave it. So thank you for watching this or listening to this podcast. We've had lots of technical issues, but hopefully we can get them all sorted out and we'll carry on doing this and improving it. So thanks very much to all who listened. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
And I'm going to click stop broadcast and hope that this is all recorded and is going to be published on YouTube.